Welcome to the Booby Trap Podcast, Wine, Films, Murder.
Trap. Big, beautiful booby trap.
With this podcast, we delve into the world of classic crime and murder films, paired with the perfect wine. I'm Tata Baps.
And I'm Mamie Mellons. Tonight we're uncorking a bottle of Mission Angelica and sipping our way into the smoky, suspenseful drama, A Romance of the Redwoods. Let's talk about the wine. We're sipping Mission Angelica from Glenn's Family Winery and Cellars in Paso Robles, a fortified wine that uses the Solero aging system for deep, complex layers. The wine is made using the historical Mission grape.
So some fun facts about the Mission grape. So it's the oldest known cultivated grape variety in California. So what's interesting is between 1769 and 1833, Spain established a chain of 21 Catholic missions stretching from San Diego to Sonoma, and it was led by Franciscan friars as part of their colonization and religious efforts. And so each mission was operated as a self-contained settlement, and it had the church, the workshops, farms, and vineyards. And since the Spanish law at the time required that the sacramental wine be made from old world grapevines, the missionaries actually brought cuttings from Spain through Mexico, and they likely descended from the Spanish varietal called Listan Prieto. And these grapes adapted very quickly in the California's climate, and they became known as Mission grapes because they were grown in the Mission area. Once again, they became used for the sacramental wines. And Mission Angelica is actually a traditional Californian fortified dessert wine that's, of course, made from Mission grapes. And Angelica dates back to this Mission period in California, and it's actually taken from the city of Los Angeles. So Angelica wine is typically produced by fortifying partially fermented Mission grape juice with brandy. And so it creates this luscious, sweet, high alcohol wine. They're adding brandy to that fermentation process, and it's retaining a lot of its natural sugar. So once again, this is grown in California. It's grown near missions or also the coastal redwood regions, which, interesting enough, is about the movie that we're watching.
Not growing grapes, just redwoods.
Right. And then, so the aroma for this wine is typically caramel, maple syrup, brown sugar, toasted nuts, golden raisins, figs, tasting of like butterscotch, toffee, brandied fruit, maybe a little bit of spice. The acidity is pretty low to moderate, and it kind of softens the sweetness without overwhelming it. Some examples for some food pairings include, for a main course, like short ribs, pork medallions, cheeses, maybe like a blue cheese, aged Gouda, and maybe cheddar. And then for desserts, bread pudding, fig and walnut tart, which for me sound delicious, and persimmon pudding, which also sound pretty good.
Persimmons?
Yeah. Have you ever had persimmons?
No. They make me, every time I say persimmons, it makes me personal list. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've had persimmons, that's for sure.
It's been forever for me.
So once again, this wine is coming from Paso Robles. It's produced with Mission grapes, and it looks like the Mission San Miguel is actually the closest mission to Paso Robles. So I'm assuming that's where the origins of these vines actually came from. It's also, which is kind of interesting, it's actually aged, for Angelica wines, actually aged in oak Solera for an average of 30 years. And so it's kind of an interesting, I guess, blending system where they have kind of the base vintages at the bottom of the stacked of barrels. And essentially every year, the Solera is added to with the newest vintage on top. And so you're kind of like, it's kind of trickling down to the barrels below it. So it's an interesting method of aging and blending. So essentially, what we have in front of us is a bottle that has juice, essentially, right? That's coming from, let's say, even this year, from 30 years ago. So that's all blending together to get the bottle that we're drinking today.
From what I understand, that provides consistency, right? So you're coming out. So this bottle, for example, that we're going to break open will taste the same as another one and the one after that. So you're not getting wildly different wines when you drink them.
Let's go ahead and do our tasting. So let's talk about the color.
Deep ruby color.
When you smell, like, obviously you're smelling a bit of that the alcohol, right? So what the brandy, I guess, that's in there. But I do feel like hints of vanilla. I feel like maybe some nuttiness in there
The
too.
nuttiness is what I pick up on, and a little bit of fig. You
Yeah,
taste the fig.
I taste the fig for
Mhm,
sure. That's
mhm.
really nice, like a dried fig. Yeah, no, it's quite good. So I'm curious, what would you rate this?
I give this 5 out of 5 glasses. There's just not. It's amazing. It's probably one of. I'm always, I'm always yapping about the Madeira from Visa
Yeah.
Tui Winery, but I have to say, as much as I hate to admit it, this probably tops that, and that's the Madeira, which is just amazing. But this is probably the one of my favorites that I've ever tasted and drank of anything.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to bring it.
Oh
to
my
you
gosh.
to try.
It's like, can I get this by the case? I'm not.
It's possible.
What do you say about it?
So I'm going to give it like 4 out of 5 wine glasses. Obviously, fortified wine is not my thing that I love, but it's really, really, I mean, it is really good. And I think when you compare it to others that I've had, this is like, it's sometimes you have it and it's overly sweet and it's like thick, like it's very syrupy. And that's not the case with this. Like, I'm more of like a semi-sweet, so I like a little sweetness in my wine, and this is a little bit overly sweet because of that. Very pleasant wine, like it's very good. It's just, once again, it's not the style I prefer, unlike yourself. So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about A Romance of the Redwoods. So this 1917 film set against the backdrop of the California Gold Rush. Girl named Jenny, who travels west to California to live with her uncle, only to arrive and discover her uncle has been killed and his identity has been assumed by an outlaw named Black Brown. It's a story of secrets, suspicion, and unexpected redemption. It's directed by Cecil D. DeMille, known for blending romantic tensions with shadowy intrigue. It stars Mary Pickford as Jenny Lawrence, a leading actress for her time, known as the America's Sweetheart, and was much known for her roles in silent films and significant influence on the film industry. At its core, it's about second chances, identity, and whether we ever really escape who we are. Some fun facts. There's only 1 to 2 films in which Mary Pickford directed by Cecil B. DeMille. Check this out. So most of the film's budget, it's like $135,000, went to Mary Pickford's salary, which was $96,666 and the all-important 67 cents.
Yeah.
A staggering amount of the money. Shot in California's Redwood country, adding authentic scenery to the salary. Or salary. What am I thinking about? I'm still thinking about her salary to the story, not her salary. Although they probably might have had to sell a few redwoods to pay it.
Talking about the redwood in California, there's actually 2 types or species of redwoods in California. So there's the coast redwoods, which are found along the coast, and then there's giant sequoias in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And so there's definitely confusion between the 2 species. If you ever, like, you have people that are tourists that are going to see the redwoods, they typically, I think, are thinking of the giant sequoias because they want the really big, wide ones, and they're pointed to the other one, the coastal redwoods, or they decide to go travel and see those. So the coastal redwoods, the difference between them is that for the coastal redwoods, they're the tallest trees in the world. They exceed over 379 feet. For the giant sequoias, they were known for their massive trunks, up to 40 feet in diameter. They're also very big, right? But overall size, for the height and the width, they're actually makes them the largest tree by volume. Both types of redwoods actually live very, very long, have very, very long years of life, as long as they're not cut down.
Yeah.
So the coast redwoods, they can live between 5 and 2,000 years, with some living even longer than that. And then for the giant sequoias, they can live for over 3,000 years old.
God.
I mean, that's just truly incredible when you think about
really
the time
is.
period. The area in which the film was made there are definitely scenes with redwoods, whatever kinds they are, in the background. They're definitely big trees. How about that? But what's interesting is, obviously there was an impact during the gold rush. There was massive logging that was happening in the redwood forests because there was a demand for lumber because you're building and constructing. So many people came into the state.
Mm-hmm.
You also had a lot of just commercial logging that happened in the late 19th century, and that led to over 95% of the original old growth red trees be taken down, unfortunately. The California Gold Rush It was
big part of this show.
Yes,
movie, right?
This is pretty much the theme of what's going on.
whole-
It's during the
yeah.
gold rush. There's the whole reason why they're crossing the country. It's to find gold or new opportunities. So this happened during 1848 through 1855. It began on January 24th of 1848 when gold was found by James W. Marshall at Sutter's Mill in Colma, California. The most significant wave of migration that occurred was in 1849. So obviously word had to get out. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And with that,
A Pony
we had
Express.
approximately 90,000 people arriving. And that's where they got that name, the 49ers. You know, this event attracted a lot of different people from all over the US as well as the world. And so you had Europeans, South Americans, and even Chinese immigrants coming into California during this time.
Well, that makes sense because I know, and they stayed because I know a lot of the Chinese immigrants are responsible for the railroad system that was built in the West. So
yeah,
that's very interesting.
And so obviously there was a huge impact on California. You have this massive explosion of population. So that caused, you know, a rapid development of towns and cities and infrastructure, but also a lot of significant environmental changes such as loss of old redwood trees. During this time, you had progression as well as hardship. And so some of that includes like economic growth and social challenges like violence against the Native Americans, discrimination that was happening with other immigrants, right? So essentially the peak of the gold rush was in the early 1850s, and it officially ended in 1855. The gold rush actually contributed to California's statehood, which happened in 1850.
Let's move on to a little bit more about the film. Cecil D. DeMille. Now, he was a pioneering filmmaker known for his epic production, his ability to tell compelling stories on screen. Now, this is the silent era, but you know, he did not win his first Academy Award until like 1952, and he got that for, quite frankly, not the best movie in the world. It did win an Academy Award, but that doesn't mean everything.
Yeah.
And he won that for The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yeah, I have seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that it's the best movie ever made, but I mean, it's enjoyable.
I will tell you this: when there's lists made by critics of some of the most overrated Academy Award winners, this consistently shows up.
It's just like, it's a pleasant story. It's a pleasant film to watch, but it's definitely not.
It's not The Godfather.
No.
Yeah. But he's still, hey, credit where credit's due. He was the founding father of American cinema, most influential filmmaker in history. So take nothing away from him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was kind of like one of Al Pacino's Oscars where they're like, hey, this guy's been doing this for literally 40 something years. Give the man something, you know, come on. Nice for him to be recognized. And of course, never to take anything away from him. Between he and D.W. Griffith, you know, you're not having movies that you see today without these pioneers. He created the post of studio story editor and art director and concept artist. He was one of the first to use theatrical lighting on a movie set. In the late 1920s, when Hollywood converted to sound films, he defied the sound experts, liberating the camera from a confining booth and implementing the microphone boom. He maintained that movies should move. His first talkie was Dynamite, which was in 1929. And is the use of moving cameras and sound effects, and which made it a hit. You know,
so it's not just stationary,
right?
So you're having some movement. You're seeing different perspectives.
And if I'm thinking about this right, this is when they're literally like sometimes on the railroad carts and moving down that to actually do these action shots. And of course, it's a hit because nobody had ever seen anything like that. It's like, but you know, you got to say movies are very new, so you know, people's expectations weren't. And we've said this in another podcast where it's like, you know, we're looking at this from how many years prior, and you know, it's kind of like, you know, think about the first movie you saw that you're just like, I've never seen anything like before. I remember going to see Star Wars and having Dolby surround sound, which is funny now, but at the time I'd never seen or heard anything like that, and I was just awestruck. So anyway, back to Mr. DeMille. His films were distinguished by their epic scale. And I think we're all going to recognize probably his biggest work, if you recognize nothing else, is the television Easter favorite, which is The 10 Commandments.
Oh, yeah.
It was both a critical and commercial success. It is a good movie. It held the Paramount revenue record for 25 years.
That's crazy.
So this man had his stripes, right? From silent to sound. And as everybody knows, some directors, some movie stars, some whatever did not make that transition.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were worried about Greta Garbo because her accent was so incredibly thick. And some of them didn't make it because they had barely a grasp on English language. And when talkies came in, that was the end of their career. So he made the transition. And 40 years later, again, nothing to take anything, is collecting an Oscar.
Yeah.
There's no way to overstate what his accomplishments were. There's just really
it's
not.
just like that idea of allowing them to be innovative, right?
Yeah.
That innovation
couldn't have been easy though. Couldn't have been easy though. They had to fight.
Oh yeah, no.
They had to fight every step because people are probably going, y'all are crazy. This is what? There's no money to be made in this.
I think it took some time for it to get in place. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you persevere, and it happened, which was lucky, really, too.
Yeah. I mean, is there a space program without Albert Einstein, Newton, or whatever? I mean, there's got to be Newton. Who discovered that, hey, there's just a million things, but he is maybe the Albert Einstein of films.
There you go.
If anybody's, again, maybe that's overstating, but I think it's super important.
Well, let's now jump over to Mary Pickford, because obviously she's also a big star. Definitely for silent films, she was a major star during this era, and she was one of the first actresses to gain international fame. She appeared in over 200 films throughout her career. That was both silent and sound films. And not only was she an actress, but she was also a producer. And so she really, once again, influenced that early film industry. And she has, once again, one of the big things actually was that with Charlie Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, her husband at the time, Douglas Fairbanks, they co-founded the United Artists in 1919.
Still a studio.
That way they could actually have more control over their work. She was also one of 36 founders of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which is responsible for the Oscars.
Women, let's hear it for women.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, amazing, right? And during this era, right? Another thing, which is probably lesser known, she actually was an author of a novel called The Demi Widow. Funny enough, I actually have an unsigned first edition. I have seen it.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
Another fun fact is that Joan Crawford, so that was her daughter-in-law, when Joan Crawford was actually married to her stepson, Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Another little, which is fun to me, because you mentioned her marriage to Douglas Fairbanks. At the time, if you can believe it, they were probably, to kind of bring it more into the modern world, think of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. They were that at the time. They were considered the king and queen of Hollywood. And their marriage was considered the marriage of the century.
Oh, wow.
They went to their honeymoon in Europe, London in particular, and Paris, and they caused riots to get to them.
Wow.
And so when they returned to Hollywood, the crowds turned out at the railway station. I mean, this was probably one of the first, any celeb couple you can think of. Yeah. If that brings it to the more modern of exactly what a huge deal they were. Country was absolutely in love. And as we know, just to touch on Douglas Fairbanks, we don't do any of these on the podcast of this. He was the swashbuckler, very handsome, and this type of thing.
Piracy is a crime, so that might be a future thing.
Yeah. But so, I mean, if you can just imagine it, I mean, it's hard because it's like, this was a million years ago. This was a century ago, more than a century. Almost just about a century ago. And so you're just thinking, what a big deal it was. But it absolutely was. I mean, there's just, as far as Hollywood royalty, that's what you've got. So that's how extremely popular it was. Silent films relied heavily on visual storytelling, very animated, right?
Yes.
Using exaggerated expressions and gestures to convey emotions. And this goes in plot. Title cards were used to display dialogue and key information. This goes back to what I was saying about how a lot of actors and actresses did not make it into talkies because they didn't know what the heck to do. I mean, you can't, because they could actually talk to and say, hey, act this way, swing your arms, and some didn't make it. You have the live music, and these films were often accompanied by live music. Pianists, organists, and full orchestras would play in theaters to enhance the feeling.
You go to the Stanford Theater in California, and
we're gonna go.
when they do the silent films, they have an organist that's there, no matter what you're watching. So in between shows, they'll bring up the organ and they'll have the organist play. But when they do silent films, the organist is playing the entire time. And it's just such a unique experience because you don't see that in like modern cinema. I'll let you continue.
So, getting to innovative techniques, many film techniques were taken for granted at that point in time. Close-ups, long shots, panning were developed during the silent era. Stunt work, very, very important. Yeah. Actors performed their own stunts. So stunt doubles were not commonly used. This led to some incredibly daring and dangerous scenes. I don't know, you're familiar with Buster Keaton? Yep. And he was very much he
definitely did a lot of
physical comedy. Physical comedy is what I'm looking for. Hanging off of things and falling. Just think about that. That's
So some other information about silent films. Unfortunately, there's estimated 80% of silent films that have been lost due to just the fragile nature of the nitrate film stock. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's prone to decomposition as well as fire. And actually, I've been in a situation where the film caught on fire, and so the entire projector room was actually engulfed in flames. So it's very flammable. I remember you telling me that. Oh, scary. Scary. And then also, during the 1920s, Hollywood produced around 800 feature films each year. So obviously, this is a testament to the booming film industry of the time. So the silent era began to decline with the release of The Jazz Singer, and that was in 1927. And that was the first commercially successful sound film. And essentially, it started the talkies. And then also, silent films were actually a very global phenomena. You had different contributions from countries like Germany, France, the Soviet Union. And obviously, each of them were bringing unique styles and innovation. So essentially, bringing these all together, you're learning from each other. You're exploring different things from, that style versus this style. And, you had I feel like also a lot of the actors and actresses were coming from all over the place.
Language wasn't a barrier.
We're going to watch the film now, so if you're interested in joining us as we watch and comment on A Romance of the Redwoods, check out our accessory reel, which is a bonus companion track. Otherwise, continue with us as we discuss criminal themes that we've identified in the film.
Okay, so now it's time to move into our film discussion. And we call this our spoilers and sips. So hope you still have some wine left. So as we talked about, the main setting of this film is taking place during the California Gold Rush. It's a setting brings that sense of lawlessness and reinvention where anyone could be anything if they talked fast enough. In addition to identity theft and impersonation. Identity theft way back then. Wow.
I think more impersonation because identity theft, I think the term identity theft actually didn't happen until like the 1960s or 70s. So yeah, we're definitely, but the concept of it. I think nowadays we would say identity theft, but
yeah, he was pretending to be who he wasn't.
Exactly.
So you have like lawlessness, and that was due to the rapid influx of people, lack of established legal systems, and absence of effective law enforcement. And of course, this environment led to widespread violence, claim jumping, and other forms of disorder. Big surge in vigilantism, which fills in the gap of proper law enforcement, right? So a lot of public hangings. So, these vigilante groups just took it upon themselves to punish the suspected criminals.
Whether that was, truthfully, they did that deed or not.
They're not. It's one of those shoot first, ask questions later. Yeah. So with that, in any type of, again, the vacuum of law enforcement, now you're going to get the vices, right? The vices will always fill in the blanks, which is gambling, alcohol abuse, prostitution. And mining towns were known for their rough and rowdy atmosphere. And we saw that this in this movie where she was, they roughed her up a lot and very, very disrespectful because it was 99% men, right? And then you mix that with readily available alcohol, and what are we getting here? Same thing we get in a bar fight now. You bring in all these factors in and combine them, and you've created a chaotic and often dangerous environment during the California Gold Rush where lawlessness was a pervasive issue.
Very true. And I think also it allowed for this idea of reinvention, right? So there's so many people, this huge influx, right? And it's kind of like nobody really knows each other, right? So you could be whoever you want to be.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for individuals to reinvent themselves and kind of forge those new identities. So, it could be, they're seeking a fresh start, right? They're trying to shed some of the constraints from their previous lives and embrace some new possibilities. So escaping from their past, once again, not really having those formal structures of like those legal and law, those legal structures and the law enforcement, you essentially could create an environment that would be easier to misrepresent yourself or oneself, and then also engage in things like claim jumping, taking over someone's claim, which could, once again, be seen as a form of fraudulent misrepresentation because you're taking over that person's claim, maybe that's in their name,
right?
And just taking on that person's identity to essentially have access to their gold mine.
Yeah, it's not like people have to show their ID, right?
No, I mean, you have a piece of paper which
they
means,
drew you.
Nothing, right?
They just are like, have you seen this guy? I mean, I've seen this in movies and stuff where it's like, you seen this person? They drew a picture of them, a stick man.
Right.
So, no, I've never seen that person in my life. So yeah, absolutely.
So, and then as you kind of talked about, that lack of kind of robust legal systems kind of led to that rise of the vigilante justice. And so essentially individual or even groups, right, were taking the law into their hands. And so, and once again, not really looking at that verification of their identity or any kind of really due process. It's like there was a guy with black hair that came through. Anybody with black hair is now a suspect, right? And you could be pulled from wherever you are and hung just because, maybe we assumed that you were you were a claim jumper or horse thief or whatever,
It's the risk you took to get rich, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But so these are trailblazers. These are people taking big risks. I mean, at that time, it was probably the equivalent of going to the moon. I mean, you're just, if you make it through, and then dangerous time, but if you make it through, there's gold at the end.
I know we also talked about kind of, the opportunity for impersonation, right? You can reinvent yourself, but you can also impersonate someone else, or kind of that idea of that identity theft. Now, once again, that term wasn't coined until 1964, but ultimately it's the same idea of impersonation, right? You're impersonating someone, and obviously the reason why would someone want to impersonate, right, or be deceptive about this? And once again, during the gold rush, right? So everyone's being driven by wealth. They want wealth, and that's the whole reason why you're coming over, crossing over the country or crossing the oceans to get to California, is you want wealth. And once again, it's so easy to falsify, who you are and claim, create fake documents, what have you.
You could basically wreak havoc on the East Coast, run away, and just say they, everybody had their own reasons, I'm sure, but the overarching reason was money in your pocket, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, this was an opportunity. But we talked about it last night. We mentioned Guy, this black brown, he's jumping claims, he's stealing from people, he's doing all these things, but he's living in some remote
for all
cabin in the middle of nowhere
gold that he had. Why was I can understand if that's your base, but at the same time, he was supposed to be this guy from the East Coast, from Boston. You'd think he'd be having some money, and he does have a lot of money because he has all this gold dust that he's stolen.
Was he cheap? Is that what the problem was? Because
it was very unclear, right? Because he could have established like a nice house and all this sort of stuff and really had more respectability.
Could it be, it's kind of like if you robbed a bank and they tell you that, now don't go out and get flashy.
Right.
Like in Goodfellas, where all those end up getting killed because the whole thing was, don't go out and get anything flashy because it's going to be obvious, because people are going to start going, where are you getting the means to do all this?
Nobody knows him. So,
but even just as Joe Schmo, it's like,
well, it wouldn't have been fancy anyways. Yeah. It's like having, a slightly more decent, like even having a little bit more nicer,
like one bedroom. Right? I'll take a 1-bedroom cabin. I'm not picky. If you're going to have a cabin, it can at least be a 1-bedroom.
But even thinking about it, like he took all the gold and gave it to the older guy at the very beginning. It's like he didn't even keep anything. Like, I don't know. It was very strange. And it was like, where does that go?
What's the point of doing all this if you're going to still live in squalor?
Right.
I mean, so I don't see where's
and it wasn't like, oh, I'm now giving this to charity or for something else. It was just kind of like, it was scrolled away and it was never seen again. So that was very confusing. Something had to drive the plot, right? Yeah. It's like if it had been the way we wanted it, the movie would have been over in 10 minutes. And I've done that in movies. I'm like, why are they doing things that way?
because if they didn't, the movie would be
Right.
over before the credits finished rolling.
Right. Yeah.
So
some other kind of idea, these concepts of impersonation or disguise, right? So that's kind of another aspect of it too. So you also had a lot of women who were disguising themselves
ooh,
as men so that they could participate in these mining activities or access the different opportunities that were happening and typically reserved for men. And so, of course, I mean, yeah, you could go as a woman to the mining camp, but pretty much your option is pretty much prostitution. And, you know, maybe you don't want to be a prostitute. So what's your other option? Disguise yourself as a man. I mean, you have
not a lot of opportunities for women, right?
You had a lot of women. Well, okay, maybe not a lot. You did have women that would disguise themselves as men to go even into war, like Civil War, the American Civil War. You had some. I mean, it makes me think of like Calamity Jane, even though
I was going to say Calamity Jane,
but obviously she dressed up more like a man. And she was in a man's role. So, I mean, once again, taking an opportunity that maybe you wouldn't normally
have. She was butch. I was going to say Calamity Jane because she's like the most famous case. One thing that troubles me just a little bit now, because how history is glossing a little bit. I mean, they say violence and summarize and say a summary of violence. But you know, for women to even to disguise themselves or, you know, whatever they're doing, that's a perilous trip too, because you're going to tell me that there weren't rapes. I just don't believe it. But there seems to be a gloss over that a little bit. We're just going to put this in a violence category and just be like, and I know that one of the things that they do mail order brides. Now, that's not rape, but we're back to the money trail, right? These, you know, they would basically buy a bride from the East Coast, bring them out, plop them down in the middle of this, and kind of the Mary Pickford character she wasn't a mail order bride, but it was super close. Where, you know, he's got her doing the washing and he treated when it started out, he treated her like she was, you know, a second-class citizen, which that's what he thought.
Yeah, well, definitely knocking her around and that.
So. Oh yeah, he was very.
Well, all of them were. I mean, especially when you went into the saloon, everyone was not, you know, pushing her around, grabbing her,
picked her up, literally slung her over his shoulder. Yeah. And it's like, holy cow. And like I say, and that's, in a real life situation like that, you're not going to tell me that that doesn't go further than what it go. But again, if you were a woman and you had to be a pretty hardy stock to do it, because that was not for, I think she was a socialite. Yeah. Yeah. That was total culture shock.
So like, as you were saying, even like, you know, even if they were disguised as a boy, which who knows how long that lasted and if it was even an effective disguise.
I don't think we'd make it.
I don't think so. Yeah. I think we have too much booby. So.
Too many boobies. Well, not too many. We have just the right amount.
But what's funny is that supposedly there were enough women that were disguising themselves as men that there actually was an advertisement for this photographer. He was looking for a lad to help him, and he specifically said, "No young women in disguise need apply." So obviously there's enough of that was happening at the time that, you know, it's definitely worthwhile kind of mentioning. So,
well, I mean, it'd be hard. Now I've seen pictures of Calamity Jane. I can see how she could get away with it. She could have been cut her hair and she looked very masculine. I can see. But you know, at the same time, I think it was one of those things you're just not looking that hard for it. It's like, we know, but we don't know kind of thing. Well,
and the thing is, if you're trying to survive for yourself, what do I care about anybody else? So this is survival, especially if you're putting everything that you might have into this trip to go. You might not even have very much. You're just trying to figure out a way to get. Going to say that it's probably not the rich people that are crossing the country to go to the gold fields, right? It's going to be people who really need or strapped for cash that are going to do that, right? So, and so talking about cash, you know, obviously you're also going to see a lot of financial scams happening, right? So you're going to have, you know, people are going to be, you know, this rush for gold. You're going to have that attraction for opportunists, right? So they're going to be, you know, various forms of fraud that's going to happen. And so while it's not, you know, explicitly impersonation, some scams might be, you know, misrepresenting investment opportunities or maybe they're using their fake identities or endorsements, right? So maybe they're saying, "Oh, I'm from the bank, and so from the bank," but it's just Joe Schmo from down the lane, and he's just trying to get your cash.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous road to go down as well, because when you get found out, it's like cheating at cars. Boom, that's you're gonna there's where you're lack. You don't call the police and say, "Hey, I got scammed." It's just you take care of the situation yourself.
Right.
They get a bullet in their head, and that's the end of that.
At this point, like, who's going to help you out? There's no law enforcement really in there.
No.
You're
on your own.
Yes, there's these vigilante committees that might have to be created, but it might be at that point, it's not just one person. It's now like 5 people who have been either robbed or had claim jumps by the same person or people, like a gang or something. So, and once again, yes, they could be very swift and brutal about that and not even get the right person. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, I guess to a certain extent, at least there's someone looking out, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're getting the right people.
Right. Well, I mean, the Mary Pickford character, Jenny, it was the stagecoach robbery. When she's going to the picnic with
Which is so weird, but yes.
And she, well, I will tell you, just so I wouldn't, spoiler alert, the derringer that she holds, like she's just found a dead mouse, and like the 2 fingers. But boy, when it came time to use it, and she put it in his hand, put a hole in his hand.
Yeah.
So, and I remember I said, it's tiny, but don't put a hole in you.
Yeah.
But even, gosh, I mean, how much lawlessness can there be when, you can't even rob a stagecoach without getting shot? What the heck? And nothing's safe. Nothing is safe. Even those go south.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, we talked about really like people impersonating so that they essentially could be criminals, right? Mm-hmm. But, thinking about the opposite, like, are people like being criminals, like Black, Brown, right? Changing who they are because now they have a new opportunity, right?
Right.
So it's kind of that idea of redemption, So by pretending to be someone better, does that make you a better person? Maybe, or at least well, I mean, when you think about some of the scenes, so it's like, she made him wash his hands. She made him pray before dinner. She made him do these kind of more social,
and that plot's
acceptable
been redone.
Activities, right?
That plot's been redone many times. The woman
with
comes in and changes his life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, we have to put down a tablecloth before we have a meal. Like which seems very silly and everything, but ultimately kind of showing this is more of what the right way to do stuff, I guess, right? And having manners and doing these sorts of things. And because now you're learning this, it's kind of making you rethink kind of he was before even meeting her, because like he was when he was in town outside of the saloon, of course, and he met up with some other woman citizen. He's like, very social. He's tipping his hat and all that sort of stuff, being very gentlemanly. Right. So it is interesting. It's kind of like is it that fake it till you make it, right?
Right.
So it's like yeah, you may not have really the background, but if you're kind of given the utensils and figure out and learn how to use them, it actually can kind of lead you to a different setting, right?
Maybe they should use that as in the prison reform. Start putting tablecloths down at chow time and see if we can't reform these prisoners, right? All it takes is a tablecloth, some forks, they simplify it. But again, it has to advance the plot somewhere.
Right.
I mean, at the end, do you really want to find out he's still a jerk? No, you want to see.
Right.
Then you have to change the whole name of the movie. It's not a you kind of know where this is going to go. Romance in the Redwoods.
Right.
Not disappointment in the Redwoods.
Right.
It could. I think there would be some hope for that. I don't think you can change anybody, but I think how does love change you?
The thing is, we don't really know his backstory, right? We don't know what happened to him to make him be a robber, right? And at this point, he's only been robbing people, right? He's never killed anybody, right?
He's a nice robber.
We don't know anything about that. We just know that he's robbing from the stage, and he needs money for some reason. We don't even know, he's not even keeping his money, so we don't really know much about him. So maybe he's actually he has a better goal in mind for that money, even though, yes, it's a bad way to go about doing it, but maybe there's actually a better goal in mind.
Well,
but, obviously, or, you know, he's just had a bad life, but he doesn't seem like he started off as a evil. He's not an evil persona type of thing where he was born evil. He's always been evil. He'll continue to do that. I think it seems like it's more circumstance, right?
Well, yeah. Well, and they still do that in plots today where, you know, yeah, he's a bad guy, but you don't want the audience to hate him because how are you going to, at some point at the end, cheer this development on when it's just like the whole thing, you're like, run the other direction, run.
I mean,
but you know, you don't, they have to have, you know, so they have to be redeemable, and we know all people aren't, but this guy
he was trying to, right? Like, you know, yes, he's like in love with her and he wants to be a better person. So he's now going out into the minefields to try to find gold, right? So that they could, you know, live off of that and have, you know, give her everything that she deserves, right? Like that's his goal. But obviously he's struggling. He's not finding gold, you know, and of course after like 2 days, of course you're not probably going to find enough gold. So you need a little bit more time. Yeah. But at that point now it's like, ooh, here's a really easy path. And at least that we could take that and, you know, get her set up. So then, yes, I might still go out there, or, you know, so unfortunately it's you know, he got sidetracked, you know? Yeah. And
again, I'll say it again, is that that is plot has been done many, many, many times where love conquers all. We've seen it. Rom-coms, love conquers all. Love can change you. Love can redeem you in so many different ways. You know, you've got a good formula in a movie, and I gotta tell you, I like this movie.
So out of 5 projectors, how many projectors would you give this film?
I would give it a 4.
Yeah,
especially when you take into account that at that point movies were very, very new, and to have the foresight to put all that together is really, and you take that into account. They don't have any historical to look back on to see how to put a movie together, and it shows the talent of Cecil D. DeMille.
I was kind of thinking like 3.5, 4, and more. I think it wasn't like the technical aspect. I think it was more the story pieces that when the stories don't make sense, I have issues with that. Or like the things that
Lordy,
just like,
you ever? I sat through Nosferatu with you. I know. We spent a lot of time talking about that hat. So you're the logical of the two of us. And it needs to make sense.
Yeah, right? Certain things that make sense, then yeah, my reading will definitely go down.
What can you name one that was just kind of like to you?
I mean, I think we've kind of talked about some of them already, but just kind of like, okay, he was stealing all his gold, but like he's not doing like,
but he's
where the hell is the gold? Like, why is he giving it to this, and where is it going? What's the purpose? And we never hear about it ever again, like all that gold that was sent out. So I'm very confused about that. So that logically doesn't make sense for me.
I don't.
There's nothing that connects it later on to something else. It's like, oh, and then don't worry because I got money in the bank somewhere. I won't say where I got it from, but we'll be settled. But yeah, it's like it just kind of disappeared, and it's okay. And that happened early on. So.
I'm going to throw one in that I just thought about. It's like, why do you need to be robbing stagecoaches if you're buried in gold?
Wow.
Is that just a side gig or a side hustle or whatever they call it? It's like maybe he's just because he wanted to wear that dumb bandana over his face that he'd cut holes in.
Maybe it was the excitement.
That when we first saw that was, I'm sorry, and then he took it off and he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I'm like, that's commitment to a cigarette right there.
I mean,
but I'm sorry, he looked goofy, right?
That cigarette didn't leave his mouth until I think he fell in love. Like it was the same cigarette the entire time.
I have a woman now. I don't need to smoke. Flip. But yeah, he didn't look ominous in that. He looked goofy. Okay, well we're kind of on the same page with it. I give it a half a more projector than you did.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that for me, seeing that the 4-barrel Derringer was really cool because I do like those kind of unique looking guns.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I said this before, but if you go to the NRA National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia, they actually have some really cool guns. Some of them are from different movies, but they have things like the 4-barrel Derringers. They have some of these are ridiculous. It's like a 10-shooter and all these sorts of things. Like it shows a lot of the guns and through their history of how they've been developed over time. Now, the thing that you would really think pretty cool is that they actually have like a vampire gun. It's a gun specifically to kill vampires with, and so they had like silver bullets, and on the bullets themselves were like etched like vampire images. And then to the gun itself, to the barrel, or to the barrel is you can screw on then a stake, so that if you need to stab them, you can also, like a bayonet, right? So anyway,
Where is the spin on my life? Why don't I have one of these?
You definitely have to check that out. I mean, it was very unique. It was very cool. So anyway,
my thinking on vampires, is the odds of running into them are very low, but never zero.
Well, that and also werewolves. So.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and summarize today's podcast. So today we had the Mission Angelica from the Glentz Family Winery and Cellars, located in Paso Robles, California. This was a Mission Angelica is a traditional Californian fortified dessert wine, and it's made from Mission grapes, which are located near, California missions.
Yeah.
And in particular, this wine was aged in oak solera, and with the base wines that are over 30 years old. So you're having a really good blended kind of wine. Mm-hmm. So a really great flavor.
It's amazing. I highly, if you can get your hands on a bottle, I very, very much recommend it because, well, we're not going to have to repeat my love for fortified wine, but we will. But of the fortified wines in that class of wines, it is absolutely amazing.
And I agree. I really enjoyed it. And that fortified wines is not my forte.
And even you were like, wow, right?
Absolutely. So we went ahead and paired the wine with the 1917 silent film, A Romance of the Redwoods. And both the wine and the film share California roots, early American storytelling, and emotional elegance. And the film was directed by Cecil B. DeMille, and it starred Mary Pickford. Both were pioneers in the American film industry. Huge. As this was a silent film, it relied a lot on the visual storytelling. So obviously there were some exaggerated expressions and gestures, although once again, I think we agreed that Mary Pickford was doing an excellent job, not overly exaggerating.
Yeah, she was good.
And, obviously the idea is that you're using these kind of more, exaggerations to convey those emotions.
But she emoted.
But she did. She did a really good job.
She was ahead of her time, I think. She was very emoty. In a good way, though, not in a hammy way.
And then the film was also accompanied by music to further enhance the viewing experience. And I was impressed with in this version that we saw, in particular, the music that they had attached. Because I've seen other versions and the music wasn't all that, or it was totally silent.
It wasn't it didn't distract from the movie. Sometimes it does, because you're just like, okay, is there a way to turn down the, or off the but this was good. It was paired well together.
It was, absolutely. So there were many different techniques that we take for granted today, such as close-ups, long shots, and panning, and these were developed during the silent film era, and we did see definitely some of those sorts of shots happening
absolutely
during the film. And then obviously today we talked about the California Gold Rush setting and bringing that sense of lawlessness and reinvention, this kind of theme of impersonation, and then we wrapped up our discussion on the topic of redemption.
This brings us to the end of this podcast episode. If you enjoyed the Booby Trap podcast, please follow and interact with us on our various media platforms. We got Instagram, Facebook, and X. We also curated a Spotify music playlist and YouTube video. We love your support, and please tell your friends and your family. Also, if you have film and wine pairings that you'd like us to explore,
let us know.
Let us know. We would love to hear from you. Always taking suggestions, right?
Yeah. So,
and finally, for this episode's teaser, to be answered on social media, and no cheating. I always say no cheating.
Yep.
Don't Google. Our question of this episode is, what kind of justice system is shown in the mining town?
This wraps up our first season of the Booby Trap podcast. So we appreciate your patience as we've figured out this new world of podcasting. It's been a huge learning curve for us, but we're loving it. We're super excited about the film and wine pairings we plan for season 2. And all the films will tie into the final film of the season. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah.
And we can't wait to delve into these new film and wine pairings with you. in the meantime, keep an eye out for some special episodes we're going to publish between seasons 1 and 2. Definitely keep an eye out for that. We're excited about those also. It's definitely something that is close to us.
We're going to keep people guessing until...
like I said, I am really, really excited not only about our special editions that we're going to be doing between the seasons, but also season 2. Just the way that we were able to pull everything together and kind of have that final film tie it all together is going to be really cool.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We really appreciate it.
Good thing we like each other, right?
Yeah. And please, definitely interact with us. Let us know if there's other, film pairings, film and wine pairings you want to experience with us. Anything else, really. Just reach out, interact. We're nice people. So until next time, keep your corks tight, your glasses full, and beware of imposters.
Woo.
Cheers.
Cheers.